21 years ago, my life changed. 21 years ago, that IPCC report, the second assessment report, was published, and it came to the finding that the balance of evidence suggests a discernible human influence on global climate. And those words changed my life forever. I spent roughly 1.5 years defending that finding and the process by which it had been reached. And I learned a lot of important lessons in the process. One was, as Peter said, the importance of science, of pushing back, of telling people, this is how we understand, this is how we know, this is what the nature of the evidence is. And to me, that's so critically important, those simple messages. How do we know? How have we reached this point in human history when we know that we're not just innocent bystanders, we're active participants in the climate system? What's the nature of the evidence? To tell those stories again and again and again and shove the science in people's faces. Another valuable lesson was the power of words. Those 12 words changed the world. Extraordinary to think that a scientific community can come to a finding and that finding can really have impact. So don't despair. I guess that's one message. The words that we have really can change the world. Another lesson was the importance of not doing science by eminence of position. It's all natural. It's all the sun. You've heard all of these things. John has spent much of his last couple of years dealing with those myths and misconceptions. And the tack we've taken is do the science necessary to address the criticism. That's the most effective way of doing things. We've spent 9 months now addressing Senator Cruz's data or dogma hearing, and the statement that he made in that hearing and in Late Night with Seth Meyers and on an NPR interview with Steve Inskeep, satellite data show no significant warming over the last 18 years. That's demonstrably incorrect. You can show with some effort that that's incorrect. The challenge is this asymmetry. It's so easy to put these untruths out there in the world, yet the timescale for rebutting this stuff is much, much longer. And so few people pay attention to it. It's the initial untruth that gets all the attention. How do we change that? What I want is opportunities. In the last 4 or 5 years in particular, I've tried hard not just to speak to my peers, but to speak to people who are skeptical about me and everything that my colleagues and I do. Bohemian Grove, Pacific Club, the Jonathan Club in LA. That was an interesting one. They polled the audience at the start of the presentation and asked how many people believe in climate change. And in an audience of 250 people, less than a handful of hands went up. But you give them pause for thought. What are the consequences for you and everything you hold dear of getting the science wrong on this one? And I want those opportunities. I want the films, and there are opportunities to do that, I believe. One of the extraordinary things that's going to happen in the next few years is somebody wants to make a major movie about what happened in Madrid 21 years ago, about the genesis of the balance of evidence statement, about the nature of the scientific evidence. How do we know? I want those opportunities. And I look forward to working together with all of you in the room and outside of the room to not screw those opportunities up, to make the best possible use of them.